And here at CNN, we have decided not to show the Charlie Hebdo cover with its cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad.
Yeah, CNN President Jeff Zucker says, quote, journalistically, every bone says we want to use and should use the cartoons, but as managers, protecting and taking care of the safety of our employees around the world is more important right now.
Well, with so much controversy surrounding the Charlie Hebdo cover, we wanted to bring in two guests to get their opinions. Christine Ockrent is the former Chief Operating Officer at France 24 and RFI, and she is in Paris. And then in London, French-Algerian award-winning journalist Nabila Ramdani joins us. Thank you to both of you for talking on this day. Now, Charlie Hebdo has refused to be censored by the terrorists with the first cover since the Paris attacks depicting the Prophet Muhammad with a tear in his eye, holding a sign reading Je suis Charlie under the headline All is Forgiven. Nabila Ramdani, did Charlie Hebdo get it right?
No, I don't believe so. It got it awfully wrong, in fact. I think it's a very provocative thing to do, to publish a blasphemous cover that is perceived by Muslims in France and indeed Muslims around the world as being deeply offensive at a very sensitive time. It is just sheer provocation, and the idea that, you know, you can get revenge effectively on the terrorists by rushing out what is, you know, a very divisive and indeed provocative cover is ludicrous. And I think there's a time and place for that, and that was a necessary provocation. It's a bit, if you like, publishing deeply offensive cartoons about the faith of those who died in the 9/11 atrocities, for example. I don't believe that Americans would be particularly impressed if newspapers in the US would have mocked and humiliated the religion of those who died in the atrocities.
Christine Ockrent, your opinion on that? What do you think? Did Charlie Hebdo get it right or not?
I think it's a perfect cover. It talks about forgiveness, there are tears, and it depicts Muhammad. And this, France, is a secular country. And of course it's a notion which I understand Nabila cannot accept. But in this country, in France, we have fought for centuries to get religion, whatever the religion, starting with the Catholic religion, out of the public field. So there is a strong shield, a strong separation between the state, the community, if you will, and religion, which is a personal matter. And let me add this: murder, violence, the Kalashnikov cannot police offense. That's ridiculous. We cannot let Al-Qaeda or Daesh decide what is politically, religiously correct in any of our democracies. And let me remind you that the very same guys do murder hundreds of thousands of fellow Sunni Muslims for the same reasons. So I think in this particular circumstance, Charlie Hebdo did it right. And that is why today in France, all over the country, there is still such a deep support for that publication, however limited its audience may have been throughout the years.
So
it has nothing to do with that.
Point, though,
it has to do with freedom.
Yeah, but at what point does freedom of speech turn into hate speech? Where is that line? I want to address that question to both of you. Christine, perhaps since you're still talking there, just continue that. Where does that line, where does it end from it being free speech and then it becomes insulting, it becomes to the point that some people are reading it as hate speech?
Well, I mean, nobody forces you to buy Charlie Hebdo or indeed to read Charlie Hebdo or to look at Charlie Hebdo. There are all sorts of offensive stuff which I particularly resent, and I just choose not to read it or not to look at it. I mean, this is called freedom. And again, offense cannot be policed by murder. I mean, it's murder.
Nabila,
12 people have been murdered in Paris a week ago.
Nabila, where is your line there?
Any free society cannot accept.
Nabila, where's your line there? So where do you see? Clearly, it's at a different point.
Well, absolutely. As all of us involved in this discussion know, there is no such thing as absolute freedom of speech. We are all journalists here. We know that, we can get away with putting forward, venting offensive things about communities. There is the boundary of the law that prevents the whipping up racial and indeed religious hatred. Do you honestly believe that it's the best way to commemorate the Muslims who died in the attack by mocking effectively and humiliating them and indeed their religion? I don't think that's the best thing to do to commemorate them. That's common sense. And the legislation also dictates that the very definition of incitement to racial hatred is when you cause so much offense to a community that it can lead to violence. And this is exactly what happened in central Paris. This is exactly what happened in 2011 when even the White House, Mr. Carney, the spokesperson for the White House, had warned Charlie Hebdo, saying it was very misguided. They questioned their judgment about publishing the cartoons, saying it could be very inflammatory and that the cartoons were deeply offensive. And it exactly led to violence. It inflamed the Middle East, and it led to the
Christine, your reply to that. And your reply to that, Christine.
Okay. Yes, please.
Can I also add the point?
If we could just hear Christine's reply to that. Christine, if you can reply to that.
If I understand Nabila's point, you have to ask for those people who have been slain for their religion before condemning their murders. We don't do that in this country. We don't ask about people's religion or personal beliefs. It's not a matter of public concern. We have laws against racism. We have laws against the support and publicity for terrorism. We have laws for protecting privacy. This is a country of law and order. We never ask for religion, and I think it's really preposterous to say that it's an insult to the Muslim victims.
And Nabila, a quick last word from you, please.
What about the agnostic victims? Why do you always bring religion in? This is a secular society. And we are very
Nabila,
proud
your quick reply to that.
And we are very proud of Voltaire.
Christine,
and we are very
let's
proud
have
of
Nabila reply to this.
Well, this idea that a secular society stifles the expression of religious belief is preposterous. What Christine Ockrent is saying is misleading. A secular society allows the expression of religious belief. Second of all, this idea that, as Christine Ockrent was saying, France has all sorts of legislation. In fact, to present it as the bastion of free speech is a myth. France is a massively restrictive society. It's a massively restricted society which has legislation against racial hatred, against the expression of discrimination, against indeed very strict privacy laws. And to, come up with this idea that in the midst of all these legislations, there's a crack in the system which allows the French Republic to nobly uphold the right to insult Islam and indeed its followers is absolutely absurd.
There is so much more we need to talk about this topic. Unfortunately, we are out of time for now. But Nabila Ramdani and Christine Ockrent, thank you so much to both of you for bringing your very much opposite opinions on this to the table. We do appreciate it. We're going to take